So that was very nice. Let's now. Oh wait, there's one more thing that we want to demonstrate here. Okay, so we're very happy to use Confoo as the first place to demonstrate NOLOH's automatic comment support. Okay, I don't know if you've ever had if you ever had to implement Comet being push technology. Do you know how in Ajax, or say you wanted something to stream like a Twitter feed or whatever, you would constantly have to poll every few seconds. I know actually has a timer that would allow you to do things like that. However, say you wanted that you didn't want to poll, and you wanted to use Comet. Comet, I don't know if you know anything about Comet, but there are no standards for Comet right now. All browsers implement the uh, the the architecture that you would need to use for Comet differently. You would also have to worry about the different server architectures, and there are different transports. And transports like long polling, short poll, and stream. And many Comet frameworks that are out there will only implement one, whereas we implemented all three, and we actually have one that we're creating ourselves that we can't demonstrate here, that we'll demonstrate sometime in the future. But needless to say, it's very, very powerful, and we believe to be a better implementation than the current transports. So, so now I'd like to demonstrate how very easily in NOLOH, just like everything else, very easily, you'll be able to do comments. So let's go to our one more thing folder. And so you see, just test webpage, one more thing, and we're just going to add what we call a listener. Okay, so we're gonna have listener. You don't even need, you just do new listener, and listener binds to a data source. Okay, you can bind to a text file, a function, a web service, a database. Okay, and you see that I just have an API key here. Actually, API. This is the Flickr API. Okay. So we're just going to add a new listener. We're just going to tie to this Flickr. So just get recent to our API key and extras, which says the thumbnail. Okay. And the second parameter is the transport. By default, it's long polling. Okay. So we're just going to do that, and we're just going to leave it by default for now, long polling. And what listener has is something, when something changes, when there's an update, it'll trigger the update function. So you just do, sorry, you need, well, we can actually just do the indent the arrow, you remember? So we don't even need a reference to it. We can just do update equals new server event, this, and we're just going to load the image, okay? And then just function load image. Let's see, I have an error. You see how new sphere, oh, I had the semicolon, let me remove that. A new sphere caught that. It's just going to load image, and you can access the argument through the listener. There's a static listener variable called data. Note that in NOLOH, we don't use event args. We don't believe that you should arbitrarily just have to pass in event args when you don't need them for your functions. You notice how server event allows you to call any function, and if you needed event args, it'll always be a static that you can access. So in event, it would be event : args, and for specific things, it would be things like this: a listener data. So you'd get the data. So what I can just do here is I can do the URL will equal a simple. If you're familiar with simple XML, so the Flickr API that we're calling returns XML. We're just gonna string, load the string listener data, so the new data, right? So notice how we said we just per page we just want one, so we just want one new one. So listener data, and we're just going to shortcut here. So just photos. If you look at the API for them, they'll they'll show you that there's photos in this photo. And then we just want the URL T. So that's just the thumbnail. So just simple XML load string from the data, and that's XML. We're going to go into the photos. We're going to go into the photo, and we're just going to load the URL T. So just note, okay, so just so you can see very quickly what it is we're doing. I don't want this to be mysterious to anybody. If we just go here and we view the source, note how there's photos, photo, and URL T, okay? So I don't want this to be a mystery to anybody. I'm literally just using, I'm just using simple XML to take that string, load it, and now I have like access to photos, access to photo, you see photo, and then URL T. And I'm just going to do this controls add new image. Let me store this image. So image equals new image, and you have to cast with XML with the simple XML. So just URL, okay. And we're just going to set its layout to relative. NOLOH has different layouts. You can, you can just set the layout to relative, which will just automatically flow things relatively to each other instead of absolute, which is the default. And just for fun, we're just going to say that after that we're going to animate the opacity. So again, earlier I didn't mention this, but you can animate anything you wanted, the opacity, the scroll bar, or even custom properties. So we're going to animate the opacity of the image to something we call oblivion, right? So after it gets to 0, it'll remove, so we don't have infinite images on our screen here after 20 seconds. So 20,000 milliseconds. So we're just going to do that here. And let's get rid of this extra space there. So we're just going to do that. So just again, so all we did is control add new listener, some data source, update. So when it updates, it'll do something. Okay. And that's it. So let's go there. So demo host, Confoo, other one more thing. Our connection is terrible, but you can just see that as there are more images, it'll load. So let's close that. Okay, so you can see that more images, and let's actually change this to a stream, right? So like I mentioned before, remember I said you could pass in different transports. Let's just do listener : stream, which should be better than a long poll. Okay, and we're just going to let's just change this to one more thing and just watch how. There you go. So you have it listening, but note that this would be much better if the connection here was not terrible, because what's happening is it's trying to go to the Flickr API and trying to get, but there's literally almost no connection here. But you can just see over here that you now have a listener in NOLOH. You get all these new images on Flickr. These are what's new on Flickr right now as we're speaking. And you can just see that you were able to implement listener in NOLOH with literally almost no work at all. Just new listener, tie it to a data source, specify the transport, and give it an update event of what you wanted to do here. And then that'll happen. So, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this talk, and please visit us at www.noloh.com. You can follow us on Twitter at NOLOH, and we really hope you enjoyed the talk.